Senate Democrats have set up a website for government workers to serve as whistleblowers for the Trump administration. And Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer has unveiled a 4-point plan to oppose sweeping changes implemented by President Donald Trump in his second term. Joining us now to discuss the latest developments is Lee Nevis, Democratic political consultant. Good to have you here, Lee. First of all, please help me understand the strategy here. What is the goal of the Senate Democrats' whistleblower website?
So, the goal here is the fact that you have the Trump administration taking a lot of actions that courts have already deemed unconstitutional, from trying to end birthright citizenship to freezing federal funding. And that's just what we've seen on the outside. And so the goal of the whistleblower platform is to say, hey, this is what's happening behind closed doors that no one can see, that is blatantly unconstitutional, so it can come out to light and be as transparent as possible. If, the Trump administration has been they haven't been taking a scalpel to the federal government. They've been taking a meat cleaver. And a lot of it, as the courts have already deemed, has been unconstitutional. One court yesterday came out and said, even though we deemed it unconstitutional, Trump is still trying to do it. So this is just really putting out into the sunshine the unconstitutional acts that the Trump administration has been doing from day one.
Do you think, in your view, it's going to be effective, this whistleblower website program?
I think so. I think the more sunshine, the more transparency out there, the better. And the Trump administration needs to be very, very careful. There was a poll that came out a couple days ago that 2/3 of people polled want Trump to get to what they voted for him on, which is lowering the price of groceries, lowering the price of gasoline, lowering the price of everyday living. Donald Trump was not voted into office to drastically federal government. He has stocked his administration with people from very far-right think tanks that their only goal in life is to drastically reshape what federal government does. And that's going to come back to bite Republicans in 2026. The American public is very used to federal government doing certain things. And when they stop doing certain things, they're going to be saying, hey, we didn't vote for that. We voted for the fact that we want our eggs to be $2 a dozen, not $5 a dozen. And that's what the Trump administration really needs to get on doing. They need to stop playing around with trying to reshape federal government to what Elon Musk wants it to look like. They need to stop playing around with trying to buy Greenland from Denmark. They need to get to what they were voted into office on, which is lowering the price of everyday living for everyday Americans.
How are Democrats responding to Republican claims that DOGE is necessary to eliminate waste and fraud in government spending?
Look, once again, like I said, in any organization, you're going to have waste, you're going to have spending, and I can only imagine how many times multiple that is in the federal government. Does waste and spending need to be rooted out in federal government? Absolutely. It needs to be rooted out with a scalpel, not with a meat cleaver. It needs to be done systematically. It needs to be done in lines with our constitutional norms. It needs to be done in lines with having to go through Congress and then signed by the president. That's what Congress is there for. It's a very co-equal branch of government. And I'll take USAID, for example. USAID was an organization that was put into existence by an act of Congress. It can only be eliminated by an act of Congress. And yet you have the Trump administration, and namely Elon Musk, saying, I think we could just get rid of it as is. No, if you want to get rid of it, get a Republican congressman to carry the bill, get it to pass the Senate, and get President Trump to sign it. But do it in the lines of our constitutional norms.
Do you think this is a viable path? Could Democrats negotiate potentially with Republicans to block certain elements of Trump's agenda?
I think they're going to have to, especially in the House, because in the House you've got a 3-4 vote majority for the Republicans, and there are going to be some Republicans, especially in swing districts that they won, yet Harris carried. And Biden carried in 2020, that are going to be like, hey, this isn't what we signed up for. And their constituents are going to start to say, this isn't what we signed up for. So there is going to have to be an element of compromise, I think, between Democrats and vulnerable Republicans to really get back to our constitutional norms and to get our government to be doing what it should be doing. Once again, No problem taking out waste, no problem taking out the fat, but it needs to be done systematically. It needs to be done with a scalpel, not a meat cleaver.
And can you also talk to us about the objective of Schumer's 4-point plan to counter the Trump administration?
Once again, it's the Democrats being the loyal opposition. It's the Democrats coming out and saying, look, we have a plan to try to stop what so far several courts have said are very unconstitutional acts by the Trump administration. And it's the Democrats doing their job in a constitutional republic like ours. It's the Democrats' job to be the opposition, to put out an opposing viewpoint, and to try to get the American public to say, hey, maybe in 2026, Democrats know what they're talking about, and we're going to vote them into the halls of Congress.
Okay, so Trump won all 7 swing states. Republicans have control of the House and the Senate. What is the Democratic strategy for 2026 midterms?
The Democratic strategy is to show that what they voted for in 2024 isn't what they got. The Democratic strategy, Democrats really need to come back to the party they were under Bill Clinton to an extent that they were under Barack Obama, a party that cared about the middle class, a party that cared about making your life just that much better. That's what American people want. They want they want their lives to be just that much better. A party that really focuses on inflation, on lowering the cost of living, on making housing more affordable and available. That's the platform the Democratic Party needs to put out and needs to show that, look, Republicans, told you they were going to do this in 2024. Once they came into office, instead they focused on doing that.
All right, Lee, great to talk to you today. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on.